At exactly 0412 hours on March 21st, 2026, the suffocating darkness over the Gulf of Oman was about to be shattered by the most audacious and suicidal naval ambush of the 21st century. The Strait of Hormuz, the narrow throat of the global energy supply, had already been transformed into a functionally closed maritime graveyard by the brutal, escalating war between the US, Israel, and Iran. The United States Navy had declared a strict quarantine zone, a digital and physical fortress designed to choke out the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' remaining coastal assets. Into this high-tension killbox sailed the Sino-Ocean, a massive 150,000-ton Liberian-flagged bulk carrier. On the glowing screens of civilian maritime trackers, the ship seemed innocent enough. Its automatic identification system, or AIS, was broadcasting a desperate, flashing beacon. China owner _ all crew. A calculated plea for immunity in waters where crosshairs were cheap and mercy was non-existent. But the Sino-Ocean was not carrying grain, and its crew was not Chinese. It was a 150,000-ton Trojan horse, a floating bomb packed to the brim with advanced Iranian rocketry, and it was sailing directly toward the outer defensive perimeter of the USS Harry S. Truman Carrier Strike Group. Suddenly, at 0414 hours, the deception ended with a violent mechanical scream. The massive steel hydraulic hatches on the deck of the Sino-Ocean violently blew open, not to reveal cargo holds, but the unmistakable, heavily modified erection mechanisms of 4 Fateh 110 anti-ship ballistic missile launchers. At the exact same microsecond, the entire electromagnetic spectrum in a 100-mile radius was brutally murdered. Iranian coastal batteries, operating in perfect synchronization with the hijacked carrier, unleashed a massive wave of GPS/GNSS jamming. This wasn't just interference, it was a localized digital apocalypse. Civilian navigation screens went black. The encrypted Link 16 tactical data networks aboard the American escort ships experienced a sudden, violent spike in white noise. Iran was attempting to blind the American Godbrain just as they pulled the trigger. From the deck of the Sino-Ocean, 4 columns of blinding orange fire erupted into the black sky. The Fateh 110s, carrying 500-kilogram high-explosive warheads, entered their boost phase, accelerating toward the stratosphere at Mach 3. Their target was not an escort ship. Their gyroscopes were locked onto the thermal signature of the 100,000-ton nuclear-powered supercarrier USS Harry S. Truman, loitering just over the horizon. The trap had been sprung. The IRGC believed they had achieved the impossible, bypassing the outer Aegis shield by hiding inside a spoofed civilian profile. They thought they were about to write the obituary of American naval dominance, but they made one fatal, catastrophic miscalculation. They assumed the US Navy actually trusted AIS. Do you think a commercial disguise is enough to fool the world's most advanced sensor network? If you think the US Navy was caught off guard, comment yes below. If you know better, hit the like button and brace yourself for what happens next. At 30,000 feet, loitering silently in the freezing upper atmosphere, an E-2D Advanced Hawkeye airborne early warning aircraft had been tracking the Sino-Ocean for the last 2 hours. The Hawkeye's APY-9 active electronically scanned array radar operates in the UHF band, making it completely immune to the physical stealth and digital spoofing the Iranians were relying on. The American radar operators had already noticed the Sino-Ocean's draft was completely wrong for its reported cargo weight, and its thermal wake indicated military-grade generators burning hot in its hull. The US Navy hadn't been tricked, they had been waiting. The moment the first Fateh 110 ignited, the Hawkeye bypassed the jammed frequencies using a highly directional, laser-tight burst transmission straight to the Combat Information Center of the USS Delbert D. Black, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer positioned perfectly as the fleet's shotgun rider. Inside the CIC, bathed in the glow of tactical displays, the Aegis Baseline 9 combat system didn't panic. It calculated a firing solution in less time than it takes a human heart to beat. Vampire, vampire, vampire. Inbound ballistic tracks, bearing 049er. The tactical action officer's voice was ice cold. The Delbert D. Black didn't even bother to alter course. The Mark 41 vertical launch system cells on its forward deck instantly depressurized, and 4 RIM-174 standard extended range active missiles, the legendary SM-6, blasted out of their tubes with a concussive roar that shattered the ocean's surface tension. The SM-6 is a dual-role monster, capable of swatting fighter jets out of the sky or intercepting ballistic missiles in their terminal phase. At Mach 3.5, the American interceptors climbed to meet the Iranian threat. High in the stratosphere, guided by the remote sensor data fed seamlessly from the Hawkeye above, the SM-6s executed terminal maneuvers. Boom, 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 boom. 4 blinding flashes lit up the upper atmosphere as the kinetic kill vehicles slammed into the Fateh 110s, instantly turning the IRGC's decapitation strike into millions of pieces of harmless titanium confetti raining down into the Gulf. The sky was swept clean in exactly 47 seconds. But the Iranians weren't finished. The ballistic strike from the Sino-Ocean was just the anvil. The hammer was coming from the coast. Taking advantage of the brief window where the U.S. destroyers had depleted their forward-ready launch cells, a swarm of 60 Shahed 136 suicide drones launched from mobile rails hidden in the rocky coastal caves of Keshem Island. Flying just 50 feet above the cresting waves to avoid radar detection, this buzzing cloud of explosive death was designed to overwhelm the fleet's close-in defenses through sheer brute force saturation. The Delbert D. Black and her sister ship, the USS Michael Murphy, shifted instantly from ballistic defense to swarm mitigation. This is where brute force meets absolute electronic supremacy. The destroyers activated their AN/SLQ-32 V4 6 Surface Electronic Warfare Improvement Program, or CWIP Block 3. This isn't just a jammer. It is an electromagnetic flamethrower. The destroyers projected a massive, tightly focused beam of microwave energy directly into the flight path of the Shahed swarm. The effects were instantaneous and devastating. The cheap commercial microprocessors guiding the Iranian drones were instantly fried. Across the horizon, dozens of Shahed 136 simply dropped out of the sky like dead birds, their control surfaces locking up, splashing harmlessly into the cold waters of the strait. For the drones that managed to weave through the microwave barrage, the destroyers deployed Nulka active decoys. These hovering, rocket-propelled electronic ghosts broadcasted radar signatures that made them look like aircraft carriers. The remaining Shahids, blinded by the CWIP and seduced by the Nulka, swerved violently off course, chasing digital phantoms into the empty sea until their fuel ran out. The surface attack had been utterly dismantled. But in modern naval warfare, the moment you are looking at the sky is the exact moment you are killed from below. A passive sonar technician aboard the Delbert D. Black, wearing noise-canceling headphones in the darkest corner of the CIC, detected a faint, rhythmic acoustic anomaly. It was the distinct cavitation signature of a single propeller blade turning at low revolutions. Amidst the roaring chaos of the missile intercepts and drone splashes, an Iranian Ghadir-class midget submarine had managed to creep within 5,000 yards of the destroyer. Dubbed the mosquitoes of the sea, these tiny, ultra-quiet submarines were carrying heavyweight JASC II torpedoes, and this one had just flooded its forward tubes. The American response was instantaneous and merciless. From the flight deck of the USS Harry S. Truman, an MH-60R Seahawk helicopter, already airborne on anti-submarine patrol, immediately dropped its dipping sonar right into the predicted path of the Gadir. At the same time, a P-8A Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft banking high overhead activated its magnetic anomaly detector, dragging an invisible net across the ocean floor. The massive steel hull of the tiny submarine registered as a glaring red anomaly on the tactical displays. Target localized. Weapon away. The Poseidon released a single Mark 54 Mod 2 lightweight torpedo. The torpedo plunged into the water, activated its active sonar seeker, and acquired the Gadir in seconds. The Iranian submarine captain, hearing the terrifying, high-pitched pinging of the approaching Mark 54, frantically ordered an emergency blow, trying to surface and surrender. He was too late. The torpedo struck the Gadir just aft of its conning tower. The 100-pound shaped charge warhead detonated, violently cracking the pressure hull and sending the midget sub plummeting to the crushing depths of the Gulf. The Iranian ambush was collapsing on all fronts, but the Sino-Ocean itself remained a massive, floating weapon. Realizing their missiles were destroyed and their submarine sunk, the IRGC zealots aboard the hijacked bulk carrier engaged their engines to flank speed, manually locking the ship's rudder. They were turning the 150,000-ton vessel into a massive kinetic battering ram, aiming to physically collide with any American warship in their path, heavily loaded with whatever explosives remained in their holds. Conventional anti-ship missiles would likely sink the Sino-Ocean, but detonating that much explosive mass so close to the U.S. fleet could cause catastrophic shrapnel damage and trigger an ecological disaster that would choke the Strait for decades. The U.S. Navy needed a surgical kill. The order came down from the strike group commander. Authorize directed energy engagement aboard the Delbert D. Black. A highly classified, heavily protected turret on the superstructure swiveled smoothly toward the incoming behemoth. This was Helios, the high-energy laser with integrated optical dazzler and surveillance system. Unlike Hollywood lasers, there was no sound, and there was no visible beam. There was only the sudden, terrifying application of focused thermal energy moving at the speed of light. The Helios locked onto the Sino-Ocean's unarmored bridge. In less than 3 seconds, the reinforced glass shattered as the temperature inside the command cabin spiked to over 2,000 degrees Celsius. The IRGC operators were instantly incapacitated. The laser then seamlessly shifted, targeting to the ship's exposed engine exhaust vents, melting the critical wiring harnesses and fuel lines in a matter of seconds. The massive engines of the Sino-Ocean choked, sputtered, and died. The ship, now a powerless, smoking hulk of steel, drifted aimlessly before running hard aground on a shallow sandbank off the coast of Oman. The engagement was over. The U.S. Navy had faced a coordinated, multi-domain decapitation strike featuring spoofed civilian assets, ballistic missiles, drone swarms, and subsurface ambushes, and had annihilated the threat without losing a single sailor. The waters of the Strait of Hormuz were littered with the burning wreckage of Iranian ambitions. But inside the Pentagon, there was no celebration. The intelligence analysts reviewing the telemetry data realized a terrifying truth. The attack was too desperate, too wasteful. Iran knew their aging Fateh 110s, and cheap drones wouldn't crack an Aegis shield on high alert. This wasn't an assassination attempt, it was a stress test. It was a massive, fiery distraction designed to draw the entire focus of the U.S. Fifth Fleet to the northern Gulf. And 1,200 miles to the south, in the strategic choke point of the Bab al-Mandab Strait, the Houthi rebels who had maintained an eerie, absolute silence for the last 3 weeks, suddenly powered on the tracking radars of their heavily upgraded anti-ship ballistic missile batteries. Their period of strategic patience was over. The Iranian attack in Hormuz was just the opening act. The real trap was waiting in the Red Sea, and the United States Navy was about to fight a war on 2 fronts. The Ghost Fleet was neutralized today, but the oceans are darker and more dangerous than ever. How long do you think a carrier strike group can survive a coordinated, simultaneous assault from both ends of the Middle East? Share your tactical analysis in the comments below. And if you want to stay ahead of the next global flashpoint, subscribe to Navy Vector and hit the bell icon. The sirens are already sounding. We'll see you on the next mission.